Let us interiorize our mind and let us sing the chant, Door of My Heart. Let's all sit in the meditative pose, gaze upwards at the spiritual eye, and raise the energy through the astral spine. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me, Lord. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day, Lord. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me, Lord? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day, Lord. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me, Lord? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, Lord, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. With an interiorized state of mind, let us now hear a few words by Swami Kriyananda on happiness, and then we'll affirm. Happiness is an attitude of mind, born of the simple determination to be happy under all outward circumstances. Happiness lies not in things, nor in outward attainments. It is the gold of our inner nature, buried beneath the mud of outward sense cravings. When you know that nothing outside you can affect you, no disappointment, no failure, no misunderstanding from others, then you will know that you have found true happiness. Resolve strongly to keep this flame burning ever in your heart. Let us do the following affirmation a few times. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Mentally follow this prayer. O Lord of joy, fill me with boundless happiness, for I am thy child, made in thy blissful image. As thou art joy, so also in my inner self am I joy. Om peace. Amen. Excuse me. Okay, friends, so we come back to our study of the holy science, and this is the second class of the series. In the first class, we covered the foreword written by Paramahansa Yogananda, then we covered the preface, which was dictated by W.Y. Evan Swens, and then we came to the introduction by Sri Yukteswar ji, and we also talked about the ways of gathering knowledge. We also talked about the darshanam, means the 6 schools of Hindu philosophy, and then how holy science is going to fit into those schools of Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. So let's continue with our introduction. And as promised, we are going to try to cover page by page of this book. And it's going to take us to varied journeys. And I hope we enjoy this adventure. Okay. So in the introduction, by this time, Sri Yukteswar ji has already said that he went to the Kumbh Mela at Allahabad, Prayagraj. And there he was summoned by Mahavatar Babaji. Mahavatar Babaji not only gave him the title of Swami, but also gave him the task of this book. And we continue from here. I was chosen, I do not know the reason why, to remove the barriers and to help in establishing the basic truth in all religions. The book is divided into 4 sections according to the 4 stages in the development of knowledge. The highest aim of religion is Atma-Jnanam, self-knowledge. So we are embarking on this journey. Whatever spiritual practice we do, whatever book we read, whatever scripture we follow, whatever practices we do, like our Kriya Yoga, or we do Hongsa, or we do Japa, or we do prayer, the purpose of all of this is one single end goal, and that is Atma-Jnanam, self-knowledge, is to realize who we are. So self-realization, that is our ultimate goal. But to attain this, Sri Yukteswar ji is saying that knowledge of the external world is necessary. Therefore, the first section of the book deals with the Vedas, Ved, the gospel, and seeks to establish fundamental truths of creation and to describe the evolution and involution of the world. So the first section is going to talk about Vedas. So a little word about Vedas. The word Ved is, the root of that is Vid for Vidya, for those who know Hindi, and of course for those who know some Sanskrit. So the root word is Vid. Vid stands for knowledge. So Veda means knowledge. And we are all familiar with the fact that it was Ved Vyas who compiled the Vedas. So Vedas are revealed knowledge. They were revealed to the rishis and sages of India, and then they were written down into manuscripts. Now, all of that was organized and compiled by Ved Vyasa. So Vyasa literally means compiler. So Ved Vyasa it is who compiled all the 4 Vedas. What are the 4 Vedas? The Rig Ved, the Atharva Ved, the Sam Ved, and the Yajur Ved. And different Upanishads are part of these Vedas, and we will try to understand how the kind of the division happens and what happens thereafter. So not only Ved Vyasa organized the 4 Vedas, but he is also the author of the great epic Mahabharata, of which he was also a part. Then he also wrote many Puranas. So now there's an interesting story for those who have been to Badrinath and you have visited Mana village. There is a cave in that area which is called the Vyasa Gufa. And there is a cave called the Ganesha Gufa. So there are 2 caves over there. It is said that when Vyasa was actually narrating the Mahabharata and the Gita, so Ganeshji is supposed to have written those. And it is said that after having organized the Vedas, even after having written the Gita, it is said the heart of Vyasa was still at unrest. It was restless. It felt empty. So he prayed to Lord Vishnu, and it is said that by the blessings of Lord Vishnu, Vyasa was then inspired to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a like a story, and of course intermixed and interlaced with the teachings of our scriptures. It's actually the story of the various avatars of Vishnu. And by writing the story of the various avatars of Vishnu, and especially the part where Vyasa is writing about Krishna, he's all filled with love. So it is so even when sages who are like Vyasa, if they can feel restless and empty just by having only knowledge, and they can feel empty in their heart and they still want love. So here we can say how Sri Yukteswar ji, how he will tell us that without love, we cannot take even one step on the spiritual path. And it's because beyond the senses and the intellectual mind is the ability of perception of joy and love. Why is it so? Because we are made of that substance. All of us are made of the one God substance, and the quality of that one God substance, the very nature of it is joy and love. And that is why when we descend into human lives, that is what we seek all the time. And all the activities that we do, whether they are worldly, secular activities, or whether they are, spiritual activities, they are but for one aim, is to attain that joy. And therefore, an openness of the heart is a basic prerequisite to be able to have the first-hand experience of God. So just theoretically talking about, okay, there is a God, God is omnipotent, God is omnipresent, God is omniscient, this is not sufficient. You have to have the first-hand experience of that one reality in your own heart, in your own soul, in every particle of your being. And then that is the goal of all spirituality, that is self-realization. Okay. So now, so the first section is about the Vedas, and Sri Yukteswar ji says, all creatures from the highest to the lowest in the link of creation are found eager to realize three things. So what are the three things that every existing thing or every existing being wants to experience? He says, one is existence, second is consciousness, and third is bliss. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Sat, Chit, Anand. So, and we hear this word. So this is actually the definition of God. Pure existence. We will talk about existence, consciousness, bliss in great detail as we come to the gospel part of this book. Because normally we talk about existing objects, existing things around us, or existing people, but we hardly talk about existence itself. We talk about how we can experience consciously through the instrument of this body and mind, but we hardly talk about consciousness or Chaitanya itself. And that's what we are going to attempt to do when we go further into the gospel. And the third is bliss. Again, it is because we are made of the nature of bliss. Therefore, it is our natural tendency to look for joy everywhere and in everything that we do. And once we realize that we are that ever existing, ever conscious, and ever new bliss, as Yogananda put it, we have reached our goal, and there is no gain beyond this that we need to gain. As in Gita, Krishna says, a gain having which no gain is greater. And the Upanishad says, the Mundaka Upanishad will say, a knowledge having which no knowledge is greater. So it's a joy, it's a Paramananda, it's a bliss having which no other pleasure is greater. Okay. The purposes or goals are the subject of discussion in the second section of the book. So the second section of the book of Sri Yukteswar ji is dealing with the Sankhya philosophy. And the Sankhya philosophy it describes the distinction between the Purusha and the Prakriti, and that how our bodies and minds are subject to the changes of Prakriti. And that why just if we do not recognize the Purusha inside the Prakriti, then why we suffer, how we suffer. And until we actually make the spiritual effort of conquering our lower nature and coming to the Purusha, which is the self. So Purusha is not a male gender that is referred here. Purusha is that one absolute reality, which is Sachidananda, which is also called Brahman. So that is, so second section explains us that what is our need to exit this cycle of birth and death. Okay. The third section deals with the method of realizing the three purposes of life. So again, the next section, that is the third section of the book, is dealing with yoga philosophy. So the Sankhya philosophy tells us that we are trapped and why we are trapped and what is our need to get out. Now the yoga philosophy will come and tell us how we can get out of this mess that you feel we are in. And it says that the realizing the purposes of life. So if we go back to our general knowledge of the Shastras, we know that there are supposed to be simple 4 goals of human life. That is dharma, artha, kam, moksha. So kam is, we know, sensual desire. Then arth is material success. Then dharma is righteous merit. And then once we have gained all of this and we have kind of experimented with these things and we have come to the point where we know that this is not completely fulfilling us. Even if we work for material success and become, a billionaire, even then there is something in our heart which is still empty. Then even when we do social work, we do charitable work, we work, do selfless service, even at the end of that something feels amiss. There is something else still our heart is looking for. And Yogananda ji would say that something else is God. Therefore, after having done so many things in the world, we come to the point where we realize that this is not sufficient. It is good, but it is not enough. I am not feeling whole. I am not feeling perfect. I am not feeling fulfilled. And therefore comes in the final goal of human life, that is moksha. And then the human asks the question that what is the truth? And finally he says, or she says that, yes, I want to achieve that truth. And the yearning for salvation is that one desire that will cut asunder all other lesser desires. And that is the desire actually that brings the guru also into our life. Okay. The fourth section discusses the revelations which come to those who have traveled far to realize the 3 idols of life and who are very near their destination. So the fourth section tells us that once you do all of these things that you do in yoga, then what will happen? What is the final realization? What is the absolute reality that you come to? And that is covered by the Hindu philosophy Vedanta. And literally speaking, Vedanta is Vedanta. So Ved is knowledge and Anta is end. So not just the finishing of the Vedas, but the final conclusory knowledge that is obtained from the Vedas. And interestingly, all the Vedas have 2 sections, 2 predominant sections. All the Vedas have one Karma Kand and one is Jnana Kand. So the Karma Kand section of the Veda, it deals with the rituals that souls can perform in human bodies. You use your human body to perform certain rituals, to say certain mantras and so on, so that you may attain whatever you desire in this human life, in the afterlife, and so on. But the other part of the Vedas is the Jnana Kanda part, and that is from where the Vedanta and the Upanishads have come, and that is what reveals the soul knowledge to us. So of course, even the Vedas know that once we are living a human life, we are first going to desire worldly goals. And once we've completed that cycle after many births, we come to the point and we say, okay, now we want the final knowledge which will free us from, all the suffering. And therefore that person now comes to the Jnana Kanda part and the Upanishads. And Upanishad, interestingly, is a very interesting word. So up means is to be near, and shat means to sit. So nearness to a guru, sitting at the feet of the guru and gaining knowledge is indirectly related in the word Upanishad. So as soon as the soul comes to the point and says, now I want God and God alone, and nothing else will satisfy me, then the guru appears in one's life. And I'm sure all of us who are present here can testify to the fact that the guru came personally to each one of us in different ways, in unique ways. He awakened each one of us, taught us the techniques, is showing the way to God, and so on and so forth. So so each one can introspect and look back into your life and say, when I was really ready and I was really seeking the truth, then yes, my guru came into my life. Okay. So Sri Yukteswarji continues. The method I have adopted in the book is first to enunciate a proposition in Sanskrit terms of the Oriental sages, and then to explain it by reference to the holy scriptures of the West. In this way, I have tried my best to show that there is no real discrepancy, much less any real conflict between the teachings of the East and the West. Written as the book is, under the inspiration of my Param Gurudev and in a Dwapar age of rapid development in all departments of knowledge, I hope that the significance of the book will not be missed by those for whom it is meant. So we all know the holy science is not for the wayfarer or a person who's just walking by the street and he picks up this book and starts reading. No, it is for a deep disciple. It is for a sincere seeker. And it is for those who are pure in heart and they are ready in their mind to even want to know God fully, to want to explore that knowledge. So blessed are we that Master has called us together to be able to even have a look inside this book and to feel the power of these teachings. Okay. So now Sri Yukteswarji comes to the part which deals with the yugas. Now this is a little complex. We will go line by line, but I will give certain explanations in between. And maybe at the end of the class, if there are still some questions. So I'm not an expert or a PhD in either astrology or astronomy, but yes, I have read physics and astronomy just to a little extent. And I've read this. So the thing that is important with such books is the first reading will hardly give you anything. But if you revisit the same pages again, you will get 10 points out of it. Then you revisit it again, you get 20 points out of it. You keep revisiting these pages, and because of your meditation, if your intuition starts to get awakened, then bit by bit, part by part, the book starts to reveal itself to you. So my suggestion to all of you would be, if you've read this once and not understood, don't worry, go back to it and keep meditating side by side and keep going back to this book. With every fresh reading of this book, you will find that the light which is hidden in these pages will start to be revealed to you. And of course, it's a good practice to always bow and pray to Sri Yukteswarji before entering into these pages because they are really, really sacred. Okay. A short discussion with mathematical calculation of the yugas or ages will explain the fact that the present age for the world is Dwapar Yuga and that 194 years of the Yuga have now passed away. So since this book is written in 1894 and we, according to Sri Yukteswarji's calculations, we know around 1700 is the time when he says that the Dwapar Sandhi started. So he is saying that that particular year when this book was written is 194th year of the current ascending Dwapar Yuga. So that means if we were to speak now, we are in the 324th year of the ascending Dwapar Yuga of this current cycle of yugas. We learn from Oriental astronomy that moons revolve around their planets. The planets turn, their axis revolves. So planets are, of course, moving around their own axis with this rotation. And they are also, and along with the moons, they are also revolving around the sun. And the sun, with its planets and their moons, takes some star for its dual and revolves around it in about 24,000 years of one Earth. A celestial phenomenon which causes the backward movement of the equinoctial points around the zodiac. Now, this paragraph itself needs a huge amount of explanation. So let me just share my screen with you guys and I'll show you a diagram. Okay, let me just give me a moment. Okay. So I hope you can see this screen. And in this screen, you can see that there is this, the earth is shown here, and through this, since we know that the angle of the earth now, if you can see this ball that I've brought here. So if this is the earth and there is a line running here, which is the equator. Now the problem is that the earth is tilted like this. So that means the equatorial line is at an angle to the ecliptic line. So what is the ecliptic? So if this is the sun and the earth is moving around the sun, then the axis at which the earth is moving, this is the ecliptic. But because the earth is tilted and the equator is at an angle, so this is called the equatorial line. So since there are two lines now, one is the straight line because the earth is moving around the sun. This is the ecliptic line. And because the equator is a little tilted, that is the celestial equator. So now these two imaginary lines, they are at an angle of 23.5 degrees to each other. And there are 2 points in this whole revolution of this earth of 1 year that these two axes, they meet. And when they meet, it is called the equinoxes. And on these particular 2 days, the length of the day and the night become equal. And especially for people who are in India, we are familiar that it comes in March and it comes in September. Okay. So just taking a look at this diagram, you can easily see that there is this earth is tilted and there is this ecliptic axis, and this is the equatorial celestial equator. Okay, so I'll just stop this and I will, yeah, okay. So another thing to understand is what is the celestial sphere and what are the constellations, because all these terms are going to come in now. Now we know that around the earth, if we look all around, if we expand the sphere of the earth all around, and of course it expands into infinity, the space is expanding into infinity. Okay, so an interesting comment that these two mathematical nodes are also called Rahu Ketu. So I'm not an expert, but people who want to know more on this, you may please explore on your own. Okay, right. So the celestial sphere is that infinite sky which is studded with stars that you see all around you. And if the equator is expanded to infinity, that is called the celestial equator. If the North Pole from the Earth is drawn straight up into infinity, that is called the celestial North Pole, and similarly the celestial South Pole. Now a thing about stars. Now very interesting astronomical facts are that in our Milky Way galaxy, there are 300 billion stars, okay, and the sun is one of them. Now Milky Way is only one out of 100 billion galaxies. So there are trillions and trillions and trillions of stars in this universe, which is also further expanding. Now, out of these trillions of stars, the most common stars that are visible to the human eye just around the earth are about 4,500. The rest are not so visible. And of course, we know some stars are even dead, and it's because they are so far away that light is still traveling. And when it is reaching the earth, even the star is not existing. So the earth, so many stars are being born, they are being sustained, and they are dying, just like any other thing in the universe. Everything that is born is going to die. Okay. So now when this is happening, so what are then constellations? So when early astronomers watched the night sky, they saw that some bright stars, they tended to make certain formations. So if you were to draw, connecting lines between certain bright stars, animal-like forms would form, or something like a mythological figure, and so on and so forth. So these were named as constellations. Now, because the earth is continuously rotating and revolving, the constellation means the formations in the sky over it. Suppose you are standing on the on the surface of the North Pole, then North Pole is actually less moving. But suppose, let's say you start standing somewhere near the equator and you are rotating and you are revolving. So after every 2 hours, the constellation which is right over you is going to change because of the continuous movement. And the interesting astrological fact about this is because after every 2 hours, the constellation arrangement is changing. Therefore, sometimes if you're having a problem in your life, let's say in early morning, 6 a.m., you are having some problem in your life and you start to think about it, and somehow you're not able to reach to a solution. The interesting thing is, you can drop that problem in the moment, wait for a couple of hours, and best to meditate for some time, because in a couple of hours, the arrangement of the stars overhead is going to change, and therefore the electromagnetic arrangement around you is going to change, which will affect your mind and the working of your system, and you may actually come to a solution. If not 2 hours, then maybe 4 hours. But what I'm trying to say here is that because of the continuous movement, so much change is happening, and all of these things are actually working. Because why it is working? Everything is energy. All planets, all stars are frequencies, are energies. Our bodies are also frequencies and energies. Therefore, that electromagnetic resonance is very, very possible. And therefore, the planets and the stars do have effect on our bodies. And as Sri Yukteswarji advised in the autobiography, that astrologically using gems, using the astrological bangle, because that also is vibration, frequency, and energy, that will also affect our life in some way. Okay, so coming back from the constellation and the celestial sphere to our, to where we are, and then how these yugas are changing. So in this, Sri Yukteswarji said that the sun also revolves around another dual. So not only is the moon going around the earth going around the sun, but the sun is also going around another star. And this rotation, this revolution takes 24,000 years. Now, importantly speaking, astronomers have actually, they are very close to finding that star around which it has been claimed that the sun revolves. And another thing that Sri Yukteswar ji will say, that when this is moving around its dual star, it is coming close to the center of the universe. I wouldn't say, but I think he says Vishnu Nabhi. So interestingly, some astronomers and astrologers have said that probably Vishnu Nabhi is the center point of the Milky Way galaxy. So there are billions of stars. Now, one sun is rotating around another dual star, and when on a particular point, it comes close to the center of Vishnu Nabhi. Now, when this whole system, when the sun with all its planets is coming close to the Vishnu Nabhi, or in your mind, you can imagine as the center of the Milky Way, when it is coming there now, because that is a high power, high energy, high intelligence zone. Therefore, the entire energy of planet Earth changes. It comes to a higher age. And then when it starts to go away from the Vishnu Nabhi, the entire energy of the earth, and of course, the living beings, the humans, everything will change. And then we will now read as to how it is changing. But just to give you a orientation. Okay. When the sun in its revolution around its dual, okay, so one more thing that I missed to explain is that he says that it is the celestial phenomenon which causes the backward movement of the equinoctial points around the zodiac. Now Earth has one more movement. So of course it is rotating, and of course it is revolving, but it is also precessing. So precessing is what? When you have seen a spinning top, when it is slowing down, first it is revolving very fast, but when it slows down, it kind of just slows like this, and then it stops. So the earth is also precessing like this around its north-south pole axis. And this precession also takes almost 24,000 years. And it is now proved by astronomers that the calculation given by Sri Yukteswarji is within 7% error of the current calculation that has been given for the precession of the earth. So because the earth precesses also like this, the equinoctial points keep changing. And it's because of this change of the equinoctial points is that the changes also happen. So this corresponds to the revolution of the sun around its dual, as well as the spinning motion or the precession of the earth. And therefore also the equinoxes, they will fall under certain constellations and it will change and so on over years, but because this happens over thousands of years, we hardly are able to perceive this, okay? Okay, so we continue. When the sun in its revolution around its dual comes to the place nearest to this grand center, that is Vishnu Nabhi, also called the seat of Brahma, an event which takes place when the autumnal equinox comes to the first point of Aries. Dharma, the mental virtue, becomes so developed that man can easily comprehend all, even the mysteries of spirit. So the closer the whole solar system is to the Vishnu Nabhi, the more intelligent, the more awakened, the more spiritual man is. The autumnal equinox will be falling at the beginning of the 20th century among the fixed stars of the Virgo constellation and in the early part of the ascending Dwapar Yuga. After 12,000 years, when the sun goes to the place in its orbit, which is farthest from the grand center, Dharma, the mental virtue, comes to such a reduced state that man cannot grasp anything beyond the gross material creation. Again, in the same manner, when the sun in its course of revolution begins to advance towards the place nearest the grand center, Dharma begins to develop again. And this is gradually achieved over 12,000 years. Each of these periods of 12,000 years brings a complete change, both externally in the material world and internally in the intellectual or electric world, and is called one of the Deva Yugas. So a period of 12,000 years is called Deva Yuga, and in 12,000 years, humanity and of course everything else on the planet, other planets of the solar system, everything gradually changes and it happens in a cyclical way. Thus, in a period of 24,000 years, the sun completes the revolution around its dual and finishes one electric cycle consisting of 12,000 of the ascending arc and 12,000 years of the descending arc. Now, development of the dharma is divided into 4 parts. The time of 1200 years, so out of this 24,000 years, if we take 1200 years, so it is 1/20th part of that whole orbit, okay? This is called Kali Yuga. Dharma, the mental virtue, is then in its first stage and is only a quarter developed. So it's 1200 years out of 12,000 and not out of 24,000, I think, yeah. Dharma, the mental virtue, is then in its first stage and is only a quarter developed. The human intellect cannot comprehend anything beyond gross material of this ever-changing creation, the external world. Then the period of 2400 years is called, next period is called Dwapar Yuga. Dharma is then in the second stage of development and is but half complete. The human intellect can thus comprehend fine matters or electricities. The period of the next 3,600 years, during which the sun passes through 3/20th part of its orbit, is called Treta Yuga. Mental virtue is then in the third stage. The human intellect becomes able to comprehend divine magnetism. The period of 4,800 years, during which the sun passes through the remaining 4/20th portion of the orbit, is called Satya Yuga. Dharma, the mental virtue, is then in the fourth stage and completes its full development. Human intellect can comprehend all, even God, the spirit, beyond this visible world. And so interestingly, that is why there is no avatar from Satya Yuga. It is said that avatars have to come in Treta Yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, in Kali Yuga. But since in Satya Yuga, the intellect is so well developed, the power of perception is so high that the souls can feel their oneness with spirit. Okay. So now he also explains the sandhis. So of course, from one yuga to the next yuga, it's not going to happen overnight or over 1 year. So there are going to be some periods of some years where the transition is slowly happening. And for example, in the Kali Yuga, for 1200 years, the first 100 and the last 100 years are going to be that of transition. In 2400 years of Dwapar Yuga, the first 200 and the last 200 years are going to be Sandhi periods or years of transition. Similarly, for Treta Yuga, it's going to be 300 years first, the first 300 and the last 300. And for the Satya Yuga, is the first 400 and the last 400. These are all Sandhi periods because of the gradual motion that is happening and we are transitioning. Okay. Thus, 12,000 years, the sum total of all periods of these 4 yugas, is the length of one Deva Yuga, and 2 of which make the electric cycle complete. From 11,500 BC, so let's take 501, Sri Yukteswar says, but just make it round figure. From 11,500 BC, when the autumnal equinox was on the first point of Aries, the sun began to move away from the point of its orbit near the grand center towards the point farthest from it. So at 11,500, it was nearest to Vishnu Nabhi. Now, when it is moving away from Vishnu Nabhi, and if that was 11,500 BC, that means 500 AD would be the point. 12,000 years would be completed, and 5,000 AD is the point where the sun and the solar system are farthest away from Vishnu Nabhi. And if we were now to look back into the current historical knowledge that we have, which is called the dark medieval ages, this was indeed the time when the earth was going through difficult times, not only in terms of politics or religious understanding, but in terms of physical health, in terms of wars, in terms of everything. In fact, it is said, even the height of people, the age span of people, and of course, the intelligence, the physical abilities change according to the yugas, according to the changing cycles that happen. If we go to the, let's say around between 500 to 1000 AD, so many wars were happening. Besides that, there were so many plagues, so many epidemics, that the average lifespan at that time was not more than 30 years. That was the average lifespan. And now if we come to the current day, even in a country like India, which had a life expectancy of 45 during independence, at the time of independence, and now has a life expectancy of almost 70. So we can see that how, of course, the physical measures have changed, the health status has changed, but that also has changed because of the energy and intelligence that is around the humans, that is being inspired and drawn by the humans. And that also depends on the overall location of the earth in terms of the stars and the sun and all the other celestial bodies. So we must recognize that our little lives, which appear to be little, are part of such a grand scheme of things that every year we are getting a free ride around the sun, not realizing that, we are taking this ride. But not only this ride, the whole solar system is moving. At every point in time in the manifested universe, movement is the rule. Everything has to move. If it does not move, the system will collapse. And of course, that happens at the point of the pralaya, when the day of Brahma ends and God wants to withdraw all the existence, then it is brought from that vibrational movement into the point of stillness. But as long as created universe exists, there is going to be motion, an ever-changing motion, and it is going to keep therefore affecting our life. Okay. So, and of course, we know that when Jesus came, he was crucified, and crucifixion was a normal way of punishment at his time. Now, think of today's world. Do you think you can put anybody on the cross right now on the street, in outside your colony? Do you think you can put anybody on the cross? No, it is not acceptable. Why it is not acceptable? If it was acceptable to the same human 2000 years ago, why is it not acceptable now? Because the energy, the frequency that is running through our hearts and minds is changed. Our thinking process has changed. The effect of our surrounding energies has changed. Therefore, we are thinking like this. So again, this helps us also to understand that God is the doer. So again, we are only part of this large scheme of things, and we are hardly actually doing anything. We have not created any atom of our body. We are not sustaining the life that is running through the body. God, it is being done for us. All these phenomenon and the largeness of the whole existence helps us to realize that what I thought was, I, the important person, I, me, mine, is hardly anything. It's actually nothing. Everything is being done, and we are just part of that show. The problem comes when we get so involved with the show and we don't realize this is just a passing dream or a drama. And that's where our problem begins. But by following the spiritual journey, by following the Guru, when we can withdraw ourselves and become the witness of this ever-changing drama of life, then we can rise above the sorrows that afflict a normal human life. Okay. Just give me a moment as I catch up as to where we are. Okay. So now, of course, Sri Yukteswar ji mentions that, as advances happened, then William Gilbert discovered magnetic forces and observed electricity. Then in 1609, important laws of astronomy were discovered. Galileo discovered the telescope. And if we see now, last 100 years, it is said that the Kali Yuga ended in 1700. And after that, a lot of changes started to happen. But there was a Sandhi period of 200 years. So in 1900 AD, we entered Dwapar Yug proper. And you can see for yourself how in the last 100 and almost 25 years now, so many changes, the fastness of life, the rate of discovery, the rate of inventions, the rate of change, the rate of technology, how teleporting, how virtual reality, or how medicine has advanced, all of that is just quickly changing, is because of that influence of the planetary movements. Okay. Such is the great influence of time, which governs the universe. No man can overcome this influence except him who, blessed with pure love, the heavenly gift of nature, becomes divine. Being baptized in the sacred stream Pranava, he comprehends the kingdom of God. So this is so important. So Sri Yukteswar ji is giving us the exit route. Now this is going to be, this is a benchmark, a kind of a pole star that we have to hold on to. That unless there is love in our heart, and love in our heart, of course, we just finished the Bible study a couple of weeks ago. And in that, the commandments of Jesus Christ, what is the first commandment of Jesus Christ? He says, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength, and with all your soul. And this means with all the available energy, with all the attention of your mind, having no other desire but the desire for God, and with every particle of your being, you must love God. And the second commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself. And this is, it's the same thing resonates with our Indian scriptures. There is the Kabir Das ji ka doha, everybody, I'm sure in school you would have heard, Pothi pad jag mua, bhaya na pandit koi, dhai akhar prem ka, pade so pandit hoy. So the true knower, the true Brahmin or the knower of Brahman is that who can love. So if we are trying to love God, but if we say, God, we love you, but your children are very bad and I cannot love them. So that love is an incomplete love. Loving God, we have to love all the children of this world as our own brothers and sisters. Now, this does not mean that if somebody is doing wrong, then you are not doing or saying anything. So acceptance is not just placid or passive, but you can try to explain to the other person. You can even try to defend. For example, one army fighting another army. Just so if we are just defending our territory for the purpose of peace, that is a different thing. But if we are attacking with the bhav of injuring, insulting the other person, then it is a different thing. So all the activities of this world will go on. The bhav is the intent with which a soldier kills another soldier is what is important. If the soldier has the attitude that this is my duty, I am preventing havoc in my country. I am preserving the peace. Therefore I have to kill. It's not that I personally want to harm this other soul who is in front of me. So he is simply doing his duty. And similarly, in all other areas of our life, if we do the duty with the bhav of not harming anybody, and that is the bhav of non-violence, of harmlessness, then we are able to love and we are able to forgive. And unless we are able to love and forgive, self-realization is not possible. Why it is not possible? Because knowing the self would automatically mean you know that everybody is part of you, that everybody is part of your own expanded self. And that is self-realization. So therefore, how can you not love people and expect to be self-realized? So these are two contrary things. Now, this does not mean, Yogananda said, that you have to personally love each and every individual that you meet in your life. It's not that. You fill yourself with God's love by daily meditation, by communion with God. Once you yourself are filled with that love, then the vibration of love and joy that will emanate from your heart will automatically fill this world with love. So you have to be that light in your own self. And you have to correct your own inner attitudes and bhav. If you have a bhav of hatred towards somebody or jealousy towards somebody, forget the world, turn inwards, sweep your own floor, sweep your own mind, meditate regularly, fill your cup with the consciousness of love. And that is what we can do. If we start to change the world, it is a never-ending thing. It is not possible. So self-realization would mean coming back to my own center, to be connecting to the infinite source of all that is. And because the nature of that source is love, then developing that love in myself, and with that love, living this life, and automatically your love will reach everybody. So without love, not one step is possible on the spiritual path. Okay, so coming back a little bit to the astronomy part, is now Sri Yukteswarji explains now why the mistake happened, why people think that Kali Yuga is going to last for 4,32,000 more years, and so on and so forth. So he says during the time of the descending Dwapar Yuga, when Krishna came, when the Mahabharata battle happened, and so on and so forth. Once the Pandavas had, gained the kingdom, and now they were grandparents, and the grandson Parikshit of Yudhishthir, he ascended to the throne. So all the Pandavas wanted to now enter the Vanaprastha stage and sannyasa stage of life. And therefore they left the kingdom, leaving everything under Parikshit. Now, because the dark ages were about to start, and the Pandits, therefore, that time, their mind was also not so pure as to gain true insight into the astrological charts, which were made by our past rishis. So therefore, and they were afraid to label as the coming time as the Kali. So they did not want to say that Kali Yuga has now started. So what they did was, when 2400 years of Dwapar Yuga ended, so the next year that came, they labeled it as 2401. And from there, also the second confusion they made was there was a conflict between whether this is one human solar year or whether it is the year of the demigods. So what are demigods? Demigods are like half human and half heavenly structures, creatures who have some powers more than humans. And their 1 year is actually equal to 360 human years. So because of two things, that they did not want to declare the beginning of the Kali Yuga and labeling as 2401. Secondly, thinking that this year is the year of the demigods. Therefore, if we multiply 1200 years of Kali Yuga by 360, the figure that we get is 4,32,000. And that is from where the mistakes started to creep in the almanacs. And therefore, people still think that we are in this age of Kali, and it is still going to last for. But Sri Yukteswarji brings us the good news that we are already in ascending Dwapar Yuga. Now we are in proper Dwapar Yuga. Already 324 years of the current ascending Dwapar Yuga have passed. The future is bright. Of course, Dwapar Yuga also means a lot of conflict, because the energy is changing from low energy to high energy. The rate of vibration is increasing. Therefore, there will be more conflict. But if, as Sri Yukteswar ji said, you may be in any yuga, in any cycle of time. If the seeker has thought that I have had enough of this worldly material existence and now I want God, and has developed the love in his heart, you can exit from this cycle of the yugas and the cycle of birth and death. When you are sincerely seeking God, God will come to you. He comes as the Guru, and the Guru leads us back to God. So with that thought, dear friends, we will end today's class and we will share the power, the blessings of these teachings with souls everywhere. Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on this sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.